The decision to accept Saudi Arabia and Turkey in the BRICS can be made by the end of the year. China, the chairman of the organization, is interested in this. Russian politicians also praise the intentions of traditional American allies. How the world balance of power will change. Unprecedented expansion. In 2006, Brazil, Russia, India and China created the BRIC, and in 2011, the Republic of South Africa joined them, creating the BRICS group. So there is a precedent. But now the stakes are higher. According to Li Keqiang, head of the Department of International Economic Affairs of the Chinese Foreign Ministry, at least 5 countries are knocking at the door of the coalition. Argentina, Egypt, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia and Turkey, as a result of the summit in Beijing. The head of the BRICS Forum, Purnima Anand, believes that the Egyptians, Saudis and Turks. This was received with enthusiasm in Russia. Andrei Klimov, head of the Federation Council Commission on the Protection of State Sovereignty, saw in this interest in BRICS signs of a change in the world order. Ivan Abramov, deputy head of the Council of Federation's Economic Committee, suggested that a new currency will emerge that will allow us to pay our debts without using the dollar or the euro. For his part, presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov noted that the BRICS format, expanded in the future, should not be regarded as a replacement for other international organizations. For example, the G20. The mechanisms of interaction are not interchangeable, but rather complementary, he stressed. Beijing's calculations. The BRICS is different from other interstate associations, political, like the European Union, and military, like NATO. The main criterion is economic, which is why the wishes of a number of countries to join the G5 have not yet materialized. For example, Syria or Tajikistan, which are striving for rapprochement, simply fall short according to objective indicators. The situation is different with Saudi Arabia and Turkey. A powerful economy, a convenient geographical location in terms of trade, and impressive reserves of natural resources would significantly raise the status of the BRICS. Another aspect is political. Riyadh, despite the sagging relations with Washington, remains the most important ally of the Americans in the Middle East region. And Turkey, even against the backdrop of controversy with the U.S., is still a regional outpost of NATO. Although BRICS does not a priori claim to be an alternative to the North Atlantic Alliance, the White House will not be able to turn a blind eye to the rapprochement of partners with a structure where Russia and China play a leading role. China holds the BRICS presidency until the end of this year, and the ambitious statements of Chinese diplomacy on knocking on doors are in line with the general foreign policy course aimed at creating a counterweight to American influence. Back in the spring, when Joe Biden conducted his first tour of Asia as president, Beijing responded with Foreign Minister Wang Yi's visits to 8 countries in Oceania, causing concern in Washington. Conflict of interest. BRICS expansion at the expense of American allies is a serious challenge for the White House. After all, no one is forcing Ankara and Riyadh into the orbit of Moscow or Beijing. The eastern countries take the initiative themselves. According to Dmitry Suslov, deputy director of the Center for Comprehensive European and International Studies at the Higher School of Economics, Saudi Arabia's and Turkey's desire to join BRICS is related to their continued desire to conduct independent foreign policy, since both countries are positioning themselves as regional centers of power. They refuse to follow the U.S. foreign policy fairway unquestioningly. Both Ankara and Riyadh are trying to rewrite the rules of American alliance. It is traditionally believed that to be an ally of Washington means to be its satellite. Just look at Britain or Japan, not to mention Poland and other countries, the political analyst says. The Saudi Arabia and Turkey want fundamentally different things. To remain official allies of the White House and act even against its wishes when national interests demand it. Erdogan has been doing so for many years, and he is doing a good job. U.S.-Saudi relations under Biden have reached the absolute bottom, Suslov notes. For Ankara and Riyadh, joining the BRICS is an additional reinforcement and institutionalization of independent roles. However, according to the Turks and Saudis, this does not conflict with ties with Washington, he adds. In the U.S., of course, the view is just the opposite. Experts expect that both Congress and the White House will make statements about the incompatibility of the alliance relationship with aspirations for the BRICS. This will complicate the situation, demonstrating Washington's bloc-based approach on the principle of whoever is not with us is against us. But this will not affect the intention of Ankara and Riyadh to change the patterns of American foreign policy, the expert believes. Possible deadlines and impossible sanctions. Since BRICS is not a classical international organization, the rules governing the accession mechanism for new members are not spelled out. There will be negotiations. First, in all likelihood, at the level of Sherpas, proxy of the head of the country, then between the foreign ministers, and the final decision will be made at the BRICS summit in South Africa next year, Suslov suggests. It's hard to say which of the states that have expressed their desire to join will approve, and in what order. A consensus is needed here. The issue will be brought up for discussion soon, and clarity will emerge in 2023, under the South African presidency. But it is clear that Beijing expects to reach agreement in principle before the end of its presidency, the political scientist speculates. The Americans are unlikely to be able to interfere. In the current circumstances, they need their Eastern partners more than they need those in the White House. NATO expansion depends on Erdogan, and Washington has already made all sorts of concessions. In Saudi Arabia, too, the United States has driven itself into a geopolitical and economic trap. They are begging Riyadh to increase oil supplies. Prince Mohammed bin Salman has abruptly ceased to be a pariah, although that is what Biden has repeatedly called him even this year. It is also important to strengthen cooperation with the kingdom, because otherwise the Saudis would get even closer to Russia and China, the RIA Novosti interlocutor says. Any US attempts to pressure Saudi Arabia or Turkey would have the opposite effect, forcing only the currently discussed accession to BRICS.